Welcome back, everybody, to the Cleveland Guardians franchise here on MLB The Show 22. Today's episode is a very big one, maybe the biggest of this entire series thus far, the 2022 MLB Draft. As you guys know, I spend a ton of time on my draft episodes making sure they are super well done. Today, no different, so I would really appreciate if you could leave a like on the video. It helps me out with the YouTube algorithm and gets more people to see the video. I would also appreciate if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the content. So currently, we have a pretty talented farm system. There are a lot of guys in the organization who I like, but we only have one A potential prospect in shortstop Brayan Rocchio, and we are certainly going to look to add to that number today. I think our scouts have done a fantastic job and have really put us in a good position to find good players throughout the draft. We have the 15th overall pick in the first round, which I find pretty fitting because there are 15 blue chip players in this year's draft class. A blue chip player is somebody who has a guaranteed A potential, and you can tell because they have the little blue circle next to their name. These are the 15 blue chippers in this year's draft class, and usually all these guys go at the top of the draft. So assuming the first 14 picks are blue chips, that means that only one of them will be available for us for the 15th overall pick. I do not want my first round pick to be a relief pitcher or somebody who is an MLB ETA of 2026 or later. So if that is the case, we're going to have a tough decision on do we go for a guaranteed A potential or do we go for a player at a more enticing position whom I like more. Let's talk about the blue chippers I do like, however, as we start with Alex Cisneros, an 18-year-old starting pitcher from Puerto Rico. He's a righty, he has a lot of physical upside, and he's a starting pitcher, and he's not overly raw. So he certainly fits my criteria of somebody I'd be happy with the 15th overall pick. Ken Hawkins is solid as well, a college bat coming from California. Good power guy, good defense as well. I'd be quite happy with him with our selection. Omar Acevedo, a starting pitcher from Cuba. He only has 3 pitches, but he's a super well-rounded guy, and he has a sick beard as well. You got Mario Marquez, a big hitting lefty bat, 6'4", 21 years old from Pennsylvania. Shortstop Emmanuel Roca, he's a switch hitter, one of the more MLB-ready blue chip players in this draft class. And then you've got Zane Rowley, an outfielder. He's only 18 years old, from the Netherlands, really good contact bat, and another switch hitter, so he could be a talented player for us as well. And then we've got third baseman Jose Rosas. He's a little bit old for my liking at 22 years old, but we have the 15th overall pick. Beggars be choosers. I would be quite happy with any of the players I just mentioned, and if they're all gone, which there's a decent shot at that, we're going to have to figure out if we want to pick a raw prospect or a reliever, or if we want to go with one of these guys who we have scouted already, particularly the guys with 80 potential, guys like William Chang, Ramon Ramiro, Buster Rodriguez. Would it be worth it to pick one of them over a guaranteed A potential prospect? And then even going down the board, some of these guys as well, we could certainly consider as well. So we're certainly in an interesting predicament here with this 15th overall pick, and we really got to hope the draft board plays out well for us. It's a shame you can't trade picks in the MLB draft because we would probably not stay at 15. We would either certainly move up or move down, but we have to stick with the cards we've been dealt, and we have to make the most of it. We own the 15th pick in every round except for round 2, which we pick a little bit earlier at 12. So without further ado, let's stop the anticipation and stop the waiting. Let's get this show on the road, shall we? The 2022 MLB Draft is now officially open, and here we go. The top 14 players are off the board. Unsurprisingly, all blue chip players, meaning only one of the blue chip talents is on the board for us at pick 15. So in the top 5, none of the guys I considered ended up going. The first player I had really actually wanted ended up going at 6, and that was starting pitcher Alex Cisneros, who's headed to the Marlins. I think that's a great pick for them. Their starting pitching system gets even better somehow. Third baseman Jose Rosas is headed in our division to the Twins. Omar Acevedo goes at 10 to the Colorado Rockies. And then at this range, it seems like a lot of our guys really started to go. Mario Marquez went 11th to Detroit, so he is now in our division as well. Emmanuel Roca went 12 to the Angels, and Ken Hawkins went 13 to the Mets. So those 6 players are off the board, but if you remember, 7 players fit my criteria of what I wanted, meaning one of the players who I had hoped for is still on the board. That is 18-year-old outfielder Zane Rowley from the Netherlands. And it really seems like Rowley is a no-brainer here with this selection, but I still want to evaluate some other options as well. Rowley is a little bit raw. I also don't think he has the upside to be some elite player or anything. And even though he fits my criteria of playing an important position and not having an MLB ETA later in 2026, maybe he's not the pick, and maybe we surprise everybody. So with all that being said, with the 15th pick in the 2022 MLB Draft, the Cleveland Guardians select Zane Rowley from the Netherlands. When I said that I would consider all of my options for this pick, yeah, that was kind of a lie just to make it more suspenseful. Once I realized that Zane Rowley was the lone blue chip player still available for us, it was a no-brainer that he had to be the pick. Rowley was at the very top of my list of blue chippers that I would have wanted, so this really worked out for us in the end. Let's take a look at some of the film here. This is him in the under-18 Nationals, playing for his homeland of the Netherlands. He is a Dutch-born outfielder who spent the first 15 years of his life in the Netherlands before moving to the United States and completing his last 2 years of high school eligibility at IMG Academy. This is the type of kid who I'm really excited to have in our organization. He is somebody who truly finds joy in playing the game of baseball. Look at the bat flip there as well against the Jamaican under-18 national team. And then this is him in the All-American Under Armour Classic last year at Wrigley Field with some of the other top high school players in the country. This is a high-character kid who is going to be a leader for us in our organization, and he's going to be one of the faces of this rebuild going forward. If you look at his skill set, he's a great contact hitter. This is somebody who I think could be a consistent 300 hitter in his major league career. He has good plate skills as well, good discipline, good on base. He's a decent defender, pretty fast, and although his power needs to improve, I think that's certainly an area he could get better at. Zane Rowley will come in as a 65 overall with A potential, and as we look at his player card, I really feel good about this pick, and he was definitely the right choice for us. Let's compare him to our very first draft pick in the Orioles series last year, Louis St. John. St. John originally came in as a 66 overall, and obviously his major league career went quite well. I feel like that would be an understatement considering he had 5,000 career hits and 1,000 career home runs, both major league records. I feel like comparing Zane Rowley to Louis St. John is a little bit unfair because St. John was just a machine. I think our first round pick the following season, Xavier Bowman, is a better comparison. Rowley and Bowman have pretty similar skill sets. Bowman was a little bit better right off the bat and entered the majors quicker than I think Rowley will. But I could see Zane Rowley having a similar career. Somebody who can be a good contact hitter, get on base a lot, hit for decent power, may never be a superstar, but is going to be a reliable piece for us at the top of the lineup for many years to come. So welcome to the Cleveland Guardians, Zane Rowley, as we move into the second round. All of the blue chip players are gone, so now it's really up to our scouts to see if they did a good job and got the guys who end up being good. There were a number of players I was considering who ended up going, such as first baseman Edgar Pulido to the Phillies, relief pitcher Luis Campaneris to the Atlanta Braves, but for the most part, all the guys who I had kind of wanted here ended up still being on the board for us, so it sort of worked out. So I wanted to sort through the players who we had scouted highly and have 80 potential, and there ended up being 3 players who we have scouted in the green with 80 potential. The first one is first baseman William Chang. He's 21 years old, coming from South Korea, a raw lefty bat who's not going to be good off the bat, but has the potential to be quite good. Second baseman Ramon Ramiro from Iowa. He's only 18 years old, and he looks to have a really nice skill set, somebody who could be ready very soon. And then first baseman Buster Rodriguez, another raw bat who hopefully could be something within the coming seasons. So with the 12th pick of the second round in the 2022 MLB Draft, the Cleveland Guardians select Ramon Ramiro, a second baseman from Iowa. Once we had picked Zane Rowley, Ramiro became the number 1 player on our board, and he has fallen all the way to the middle of the second round, where we are ecstatic to scoop him up. Ramiro was originally born in the Dominican Republic. He then moved to Iowa at a young age, where since he has played for the Monarchs of St. Anthony's High School for the last 4 years. This is a kid who, like our first pick, Zane Rowley, truly enjoys playing the game of baseball. He has an aura and a swagger about him, and he's just an all-around joy to watch. He's one of the best bat flippers and home run celebrators in all of high school. Look at him doing the giddy up. He also played in the Under Armour All-American game, and deservedly so. This is somebody who I think has the chance to be a 5-tool player in the big leagues. He's a great contact hitter and has great plate skills right off the bat. His power isn't terrible, and when he does hit a home run, he lets you know about it. He's an okay defender, needs to improve there, but he's not a liability at defense, where he will most likely stick at second. Ramiro ends up coming in as a 67 overall with A potential. It is very hard to find A potential players out of a first round, and we just did that. This is a home run selection for us, and I don't think we could have drafted anyone better here than Ramon Ramiro. So we are definitely 2 for 2 so far in this draft, absolutely killing it. Now we move to the third round, and it becomes a little bit harder because most of the guys I like are off the board. So I've noticed if you don't scout a player and it says they have 80 potential, they usually actually end up pretty good, which is notable because all of the guys who we've scouted really don't look all that good. Buster Rodriguez is just a little bit too raw for my liking at this stage in the draft. Otherwise, I would consider him, and maybe if he falls a little bit, we'll look at him in the later rounds. So because of that, I'm actually going to go towards more of a flyer, somebody who we have not scouted at all, but again, usually, if it says they have 80 potential, they're going to end up being pretty good. So I really wanted to add a starting pitcher here, and there were two guys who enticed me. 18-year-old Marcos Villalobos coming from Colombia. He is projected as a 75 overall right off the bat as well. So he's probably quite a bit worse than that. But again, usually these players who say they have 80 potential and haven't been scouted end up pretty good. The other one is lefty Ricky Watkins from Jamaica, also projected to be very good right off the bat as well. So with the 15th pick in the third round of the 2022 MLB draft, the Cleveland Guardians will be selecting starting pitcher Ricky Watkins from Jamaica. Watkins was especially enticing to me because he is a lefty. We need lefties in our organization. All 5 of our current starting pitchers are righties. All of the good pitching prospects we have in the organization are righties. So I felt like we had to go with a lefty arm, and that's really what sold me with Ricky Watkins at the end of the day. Watkins has a great skill set, and the two skills that are most intriguing to me, 80 hits per 9, 80 walks per 9. And again, that's certainly not for sure because we haven't scouted him at all, but those are two of his best areas, and those are two spots where you really got to be good at if you're a starting pitcher in this year's game. Watkins has a strong pitch repertoire coming with 4 pitches already. A two-seam fastball, a slider, a changeup, and a curveball. Watkins is a 65 overall with B potential, so indeed, even though we did not scout him at all, he ends up looking quite good. I told you guys, even if they're not scouted, if it says they have 80 potential, pick them, because chances are they're going to be good. As we move to the 4th round now, the other guy we were considering in round 3, Marcos Villalobos, is still on the board, which is certainly enticing. The other player we were kind of looking at recently, Buster Rodriguez for first baseman, is also still on the board. So do we go for the sure thing in Rodriguez, who we know is raw, but we know is going to be good eventually, or do we go for the gamble on Villalobos? So with the 15th pick in the 4th round of the 2022 draft, the Cleveland Guardians select Marcos Villalobos, an 18-year-old right-handed starting pitcher from Colombia. I figured if it worked with Ricky Watkins, why won't it work with Villalobos? He has a very similar skill set, also coming with 4 pitches, a 4-seamer, a changeup, a splitter, and a curveball. So he already has a pretty diverse pitch repertoire, and he's a year younger than Watkins. He's only 18 years old, and although we haven't scouted him a lot, we don't know a ton about him. Again, chances are he's going to be good, even though our scouts haven't even touched him up to this point, which is why I feel confident with this pick. And even if it doesn't work out, it's a 4th rounder, so it's really not that big of a deal. Sure enough, he ends up being quite solid. He's a 63 overall with B potential. That's Ks per 9 is awfully low, but other than that, very happy with that selection. We have gone 4 for 4 so far in this year's draft, absolutely killing it right now. Only 2 picks to go, starting in round 5. That guy, Buster Rodriguez, who I was considering, ended up going to the Cubs. He would have been my pick here, but unfortunately, he is off the board. So I ended up deciding to stick with my strategy of going for the 80 potential guys who we haven't scouted at all, most of which are starting pitchers. So it looks like we're going to go back to the pitching here. The obvious choices look like Rich William and Pedro Perez because they both claim to be MLB ready, but I feel like there's a reason why these two prospects are falling, and maybe I'm overthinking it a little bit. But for those two guys to be in the 5th round, there's got to be something wrong here. The other scouts have to think they're not all that good. So I decided to go off the rails with this pick a little bit. With the 15th pick in the 5th round, the Cleveland Guardians select Nick Wirth. He's an 18-year-old starting pitching prospect with 80 potential, but he appears to be a lot more raw than those other two players. So why exactly are we picking Nick Wirth here? Well, I think he has a good skill set. He has good stuff, 80 break and 80 velocity on his pitches, so I think that gives him the upside to be a fantastic player. He also comes with 4 pitches, a 4-seamer, a slider, a 2-seamer, and a changeup. So again, a fairly diverse pitching repertoire at just 18 years old. The fun thing with Wirth here is that he's a hometown kid. Grew up a big Cleveland Guardians fan, even though they weren't called the Guardians when he was a kid, but point remains. He played for Orchard Academy in Youngstown, Ohio, so again, he's fairly close to the area and likely won't have to move too far joining our organization. Although he's a little bit raw, it does appear that he's going to come in with some very solid upside, as he's a 52 overall with B potential. Not going to be good for a while, but if we can develop him, he could become a very good player down the line for us and somebody who eventually enters our starting rotation. So I really feel like we are 5 for 5. We have nailed all of our draft picks so far. Now in the 6th round, it becomes even more of a crapshoot. And fittingly, the two guys who I had kind of considered in the last round, Rich William and Pedro Perez, are still both there. I said there was a reason why they're falling. Clearly, there's got to be an issue with them. And I guess I was right, because here we are a round later, and both of them are still on the board. So with our final selection of the day, the 6th round, 15th pick of the 2022 MLB Draft, the Cleveland Guardians will be selecting starting pitching prospect Pedro Perez, a 22-year-old from the Dominican Republic. The tiebreaker between him and Rich William was indeed the mustache, I'm not going to lie. So even though I am a little bit concerned as to why Perez is falling, I feel like at this point in the draft, it's worth a shot, right? It doesn't hurt with our last pick in the 6th round. Perez claims to be a 70 overall, and it looks like his skill set is quite solid. Another guy with 4 pitches, a 4-seam fastball, a changeup, a sinker, and a slider. All 4 of the pitchers we've had today have a good set of 4 pitches. Now, Perez is by far the oldest prospect we have picked. All 5 of our first picks were teenagers, whereas Perez is already 22 years old. So I think he actually is going to be a little bit better than them right off the bat, but I don't think he's going to have the upside that those two do. But clearly, he has some good facial hair, and we'll make it work. He's a 64 overall with C potential, which doesn't look outstanding, but for the 6th round, this is really good organizational depth in my opinion, so I'm pretty happy with this pick. Welcome to the squad, Pedro Perez. So that's going to conclude the MLB draft. Let's take a look at all of our players' official potentials, because we've seen the letter grade for them, but we don't know the number that they have, which obviously is kind of a big deal. So as we go here to sign our draft picks, here we go. Not too bad at all. So Zane Rowley is going to come in with 93 potential, which is quite solid. Ramon Ramiro, unfortunately, only has 90, but I think it's pretty much impossible for a non-blue chip prospect to have more than 90 potential. Watkins has 86 potential, Villalobos has 82, and Wirth has 83. So a great set of mid-round pitchers for us, all with B potential, and then Pedro Perez has 75. So overall, I don't think this draft could have really gone any better for us. An absolute grand slam here for the Cleveland Guardians and our very first draft in team history. Let's take a look at some of the drafts around the rest of the league, see some of the guys who we had passed on or wanted. Here's Mario Marquez, also with 65, only with 91 potential, so it looks like Zane Rowley ended up being better. The Royals had a pretty solid draft. They got a stud late with Juan Pineda. Here's Jose Rosas. He is a 66 overall with 93 potential, but again, I honestly prefer Zane Rowley to him. They drafted another third baseman by the name of Babe, who appears to be pretty good. Emmanuel Roca is a 66 with 92 potential, so it seems like all the guys we consider are in like the same area. Mid-60s with low 90s potential. The Oakland Athletics drafted an absolute gem with Will Franklin. He was another one of those B potential, 80 potential starting pitchers who we didn't scout at all. We didn't really think about him, and obviously that backfired on us. Orlando Higgins, 54 overall to the Rangers, but he has 94 potential. The Braves had a nice draft headlined by Steve Ibanez. There's Alex Cisneros, 97 potential, the highest upside of anybody in this draft class, 64 overall as well. He looks like an absolute machine. Very good pick for the Marlins, who are loaded in starting pitching prospects. Ken Hawkins is a 65 with 92, so again, it seems like all of these hitters are mid-60s with low 90s potential. Edgar Pudillo is a guy I liked. He ends up being pretty good for the Phillies. The Nationals had a great draft with a 91 and 89 potential. There's Buster Rodriguez, who we almost picked. He's an 81 potential, 44 overall. So I really don't think we missed out on that much. I'm not overly upset that we passed on him. Moving right along here, the Brewers got a gem in Sergio Cortez. The Pirates got a very good second baseman in Doug Wilson, who was 95 potential. The Cardinals had a great draft with 3 players of at least 79 potential. Udo Jones, 96 potential to the Diamondbacks. There's Omar Acevedo. We thought about him at one point. 66 overall with 94 potential going to the Colorado Rockies. He's not going to have fun in Coors Field, though, I've got to say. Here are the Dodgers. They had a good draft. And remember, Rich Williams was the guy we kind of thought about late. He's a 58 with 74. So, again, it seemed like he wasn't that good, and we were right to pass on him the times we did. The Giants had a good draft, getting a couple good players. Teddy Katimer was the number 1 pick to the Orioles. He's only a 47, but he has 94 potential, so he doesn't look too bad. The Yankees had a decent draft. The Tampa Bay Rays as well found another gem, because that's what the Rays do, with William Chang, who has 90 potential. We thought about him at one point, and I guess he ended up being pretty good. And then the Blue Jays find Adrian Hiller, 64 overall, 90 potential in the mid-rounds. I did not even have Hiller on my radar. So that's a really good find there by the Toronto Blue Jays. So it looks like there were 3 players in this draft class who weren't blue chippers, who ended up with 8 potential. And I think we got the best of those 3 in Ramon Ramiro. And I think we got one of the best blue chip players as well with Zane Raleigh. Added on with the pitching depth we got through the mid-rounds. I think we had the best draft class out of anybody. So couldn't have really asked for more in our very first draft of the series. Let me know what you thought of the prospects we ended up with down below in the comments. So that's going to end today's episode. Next time, we're going to get back to the Big League Club, continue to focus here through the month of June, trying to get back on track after a pretty rough stretch to the end of May. Make sure to hit the like button, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Peace out. Go Guardians.